President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi expressed Egypt's eagerness to expedite the implementation of joint projects with Iraq in order to accomplish their shared development objectives, promote integration between the two nations, and satisfy the needs of the Iraqi people. El-Sisi made the remarks in a meeting with Iraq's Prime Minister, Mohammed Shia al-Sudani, who was on his first official visit to Cairo as Premier last week. President el-Sisi emphasized Egypt's keenness to activate and diversify the frameworks of bilateral cooperation with Iraq on the political, economic, commercial and cultural levels, as well as to maintain trilateral cooperation with Iraq and Jordan. For his part, Iraqi Premier stressed Baghdad's keenness to bolster cooperation with Egypt and benefit from its expertise in various fields, in light of Egypt's prominent role in fostering joint Arab action mechanisms in the face of the current crises and challenges in the region. El-Sudani also praised Egypt's regional role in this regard, as a role model for preserving stability and advancing development and economic and social conditions, expressing Iran's appreciation for Egypt's efforts to support Iraq on all levels. El-Sisi emphasized Egypt's sturdy commitment to backing Iraq and providing full support to the Iraqi people on all levels, particularly in the areas of counter-terrorism and consolidating security and stability. During his meeting with the Iraqi counterpart, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli agreed on assigning the relevant ministers in both governments to work over the coming 2 months on activating the already existing MOUs between the two countries. The two premiers agreed that this should coincide with thorough preparations for meetings of the upcoming round of the Egyptian-Iraqi Joint High Committee to ensure outcomes that meet the expectations of both peoples. Egypt and Iraq have intensified bilateral cooperation in recent years and have embarked on a number of joint development projects along with Jordan as part of their tripartite cooperation mechanism. The three countries have signed many agreements to boost relations and implement joint projects, including power linkage between them. Prime Minister Madbouli said that Egypt already has a power link with Jordan at a capacity of 550 megawatts, which can be boosted to up to 2 to 3 gigawatts, and that work is underway to boost the capacity of the power line in order for it to reach Iraq. El-Sudani said the first phase of the trilateral power linkage project will be completed in June. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, continuing our discussion with Dr. Amir. Now, the first official visit by the Iraqi Prime Minister, Shia al-Sudani, to Egypt, meeting President el-Sisi. Now, Iraq is a country with great history and a lot of political developments over the past decades. Egypt, Iraq and Jordan as well, they have their trilateral sort of meetings and interests and common goals. First off, with the introduction of this newly elected Iraqi Prime Minister, what do we know about his political inclinations or political agenda, and what does this mean, his visit to Egypt, meeting President el-Sisi as soon as he assumed office?
Well, the Iraqis are trying now to get closer to the Arab world, you know, after the 2003 U.S. invasion. Iran made this huge, let's say, gains inside Iraq. And many prime ministers were openly pro-Tehran. And at that time, the Arab world was very, very keen to not to cooperate closely with the Iraqi governments. And then in 2014 it was Daesh who exploded there, and the Iraqi army was completely destroyed again. And Daesh was controlling parts of Iraq. And then we had the Kurdish problem. They wanted independence. Saudi Arabia said, well, why not? It will be a great idea to endorse their independence. Israel said the same thing. The Turks, of course, the Turkish government became mad about this question. And Iran also was not happy about it. So it was very complicated. And all that I'm telling you, whereas the Iraqi national spirit, the national interest, we're talking about outside elements. So it was lost. I think that, as you said, Egypt, Jordan, and Iraq at a certain time understood that the lesson of Daesh was very, very important to retain, that it shouldn't happen again. Because we have seen it started in Iraq and we saw it in Libya. And how it crossed to Sinai also and harmed us. We paid a huge price. Jordan was on the verge of collapse at a certain time because of all these terrorist elements. So we had to find a coalition between the three of us. I think now that the new Prime Minister of Iraq, his inclinations are clear. He wants to have good relations with the Arab world. He's not, of course, he cannot disintegrate from this alliance with Iran because of the Shia presence inside his government and inside the population also. So he wants to re-establish this kind of relations. Economically, we have the electricity projects between Egypt, Jordan, and Iraq. We have the security cooperation, fighting terrorism. We have also the diplomatic views about what's going on in the Middle East, because I think that the Prime Minister of Iraq also, he has the views of Iran. He's giving the Arab world the views of the Iranian leadership, who is threatening the Gulf states with the nuclear plants. I think, for instance, the establishing of the diplomatic relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran lately, a few days ago, thanks to the Chinese mediation, it's also because things got appeased in Iraq, because this was very, very annoying also for the Gulf states, that Iraq became a hub of all the Shia militias. We have seen now that the Sadr militias, for example, now are backing off. There is a new police system, there is order and law, there is an army. The militias are not guiding everything as they did before. So I think that Iraq is now, let's say, the common ground between Iran and the Arab world to get closer. I'm not sure if it will be very quickly. I'm not sure if it will endure for a long time, because still there are problems in Yemen, even in Bahrain. There's problems everywhere with Iran. So I think that the Iraqi leadership is transmitting to Egypt, for example, the new situation in Iraq. We are listening, as the statement of our foreign ministry about the establishing of relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran. We said our priority is the national security of the Arab world. So I think we have to listen to our brothers in Iraq. We have to open our arms for them, not to repeat the same mistake that happened with Syria. We have to regain them again under the Arab umbrella and listen to them, and why not listen to the views of the Iranians?
So you've mentioned that, I mean, what we're doing, for instance, for Jordan and Iraq is the cooperation in terms of the electrical energy. And it seems that out of what you're saying is that the main issues are counterterrorism and really trying to keep tabs on the Iranian influence within the region, which is a topic that we've been discussing for a few years now. So is this the only thing that Egypt can benefit from in terms of the security, the counterterrorism, and the Iranian influence, or is there another thing that we can actually, by strengthening the Egyptian-Iraqi relations, we can benefit?
Well, it's, as you said, it's mainly Iran, because once the regime of Saddam Hussein collapsed, it was the topic of Iran for 20 years now, since 2003 till 2023 now. 20 years we're speaking about the same subject, Iran, Iran, Iran. And I think that the Arab world is very concerned about it. The only thing is that, are the Iranians willing to not to or retain their plans on the nuclear energy, not expand it to military aspects? The Iranians are always taking the cover of anti-Israel. Now the Iranians, at the past, they thought they would be the heroes who would protect the Arab world from Israel. Well, now the Arab world is establishing relations with Israel. So the data is changing on the ground. Things are changing. The Iranians now, they have to listen also to the Arab world, because they have now Egypt, the Gulf states, Israel, Turkey is getting closer to the Arab world. Iraq is getting closer. Syria is open now to the Arab League, and the Arab League is open to Syria. The Emiratis are creating this kind of mediation between the Arab world and Iran also. Qatar is doing the same thing. So I think that the Iranians now do not wish to go on with all these hostilities. Especially, we have seen the drone attacks inside Iran, and it was very, very harmful for Iran. And it was clear that the national security of Iran is vulnerable. And there is another point also. We have the uprising, the ongoing uprisings in Iran every time. So they need calm.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, be it the visit of the Iraqi Prime Minister or the Danish Prime Minister, as Dr. Amir has really clarified, it's really about safeguarding the safety, the security, political security, economic security, not just for Egypt, but for the whole region. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank my very distinguished guest, Dr. Cherif Amir, the geopolitical affairs expert and political analyst. Dr. Amir, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Nile International. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.